Hi everyone and welcome to Gutter Glitter, the audiobook podcast for my memoir by the same name, and I'm your host Kirsty. We are reading chapter 23, I'm Ready to Release. This is a lyric taken from a George song. We are going way back into the noughties now. The song is Release. It's from the 2002 album Polly Serena from George. I mean, this was like a coming of age album for me. Katie Noonan is such a huge inspiration for me when I was starting to write lyrics and music. Her and Kate Miller-Heidke in particular, they were opera singers first and then they wrote popular music. So for me, growing up classically trained, they were incredibly influential in terms of how I decided to write for myself and use my voice and be experimental, because traditionally, you don't see very many pop stars coming from a classical background in the media, and I didn't know if it was possible or if it was something that was done. I thought if I hadn't trained in jazz or popular music, there was no way my voice would ever be commercially viable. So having these women to reflect on, if you can't see it, you can't be it. It was very reassuring to me that there was hope. And so without further ado, let's take a little listen. Chapter 23, I'm Ready to Release. Soundtrack, George. Release. Although the mixed-sex SLAA meetings were rather traumatic, I found the female ones incredibly important. These groups helped me see the value of having a community of women around me, as I had previously always leaned on men for comfort and protection. I've always had female friends, but my eyes hadn't been open to seeing women for what they really are. Insanely strong, quietly wise, deeply emotional, intensely fierce and nurturing healers. I can't believe it took me until I was 28 to realize that women are the backbone of the world. That's how strong the patriarchy is. It convinced me as a little girl that women were lesser than men, and that we needed them to live, breathe, and exist. Ugh. I was a child misogynist. And if that could happen to me, someone raised by a staunch feminist and parents in unconventional roles, it could happen to anybody. I continued going to meetings on the outside. SLAA was only held once a week, and even then, I would have to drive for almost I continued going to meetings on the outside. SLAA was only held once a week, and even then, I would have to drive for almost an hour to get there. But these meetings, or gatherings of inspirational women of varying degrees of fracture, were instrumental in my healing. I would meet Jess, my friend from rehab. We would share our stories and struggles, listen to the other women share theirs, and then the two of us would debrief over Vietnamese noodles. I would want to drink with my meal so badly, but we could resist the urge because we had each other. It was a gentle transition into the world of sobriety, which might be the key. I have no idea. I won't pretend I know the answers, but I know that the transition from simple old habits like having a cold beer with spicy noodles on a warm summer's night to enjoying a meal with your girlfriend while sipping a Sprite is no small feat. It requires strength to ignore the refrigerator of sparkling bottles dripping with condensation and say, "Not today, Satan." Strength and sass. You gotta have a little sass. There was a beautiful woman in her mid to late 30s who attended our group. She had long brown hair, was tall, with legs up to her armpits, and these enormous doe-like eyes that softened her sharp cheekbones. She could have been a supermodel in another life. But here she sat in the group, shrouded in baggy clothes that hid her tiny frame, and collapsed into herself as if she was trying to disappear. She looked how I had felt a year ago. Before she had even said a word, you could see that her pain was eating her alive. She was entirely broken. It was tragic, but it was also awakening. Before I saw her, I felt like my anguish wasn't shifting, and I would live at the same level of despair forever. But looking at this shivering lamb in front of me, I realized I had grown. I may not have been #living my best life, and I may still have cried every day. But I was not where I was a year ago, and that was progress. That meant change was possible. I supplemented my SLAA meetings by attending NA, Narcotics Anonymous, several times a week. These were mixed meetings and came with their own difficulties. There were generally more men than women at NA, and despite everyone knowing that dating hinders the recovery process, I would still occasionally be hit on and ogled during meetings. Going to meetings and having the same men staring at me every week was very uncomfortable and started putting me off attending. Meanwhile, many of the well-behaved men from rehab, having left the prying eyes of our supervisors, were inappropriately messaging me. It was clear they had relapsed and, after a few drinks or 9, were trying to remember which of the female rehabians had been identified as sex and love addicts. Maybe they too were feeling wobbly in their recovery and thought their urges and her self-loathing could line up for one magical night. Before the regret set in, that is. Boys, I understand you are struggling, but your selfish contact derailed my progress and broke my spirit. Not cool. After a while, I had to stop going to NA. Being clean and hearing everyone's insane drug stories, or knowing someone in the room had used as recently as that morning, became triggering and unhelpful. Not only that, I began to see people I recognized. People I had partied with on nights out while running from ourselves. And yet here we were, lost, hopeless, and wondering where the fun had gone. We would sit in these meetings, checking each other out and trying foggily to remember where we knew the person from. Are they from TV? Did we go to school together once upon a time? Oh, right. That's the dude I went home with to do lines until I was kicked out at 8 a.m. because his baby mama was dropping off his kids soon. These were the true FML moments. F my effing L. I was outside taking in the sunshine during a break at an NA meeting when a disheveled, tired-looking 40-something-year-old man approached me. He'd admitted in the meeting that he had used heroin a few hours ago, but I respected that he was still here and trying. Trying is really fucking hard. His name was Nate, and I'd already worked out that I knew him from a rough night out. We met the night Alessandro told me not to come to Italy. I'd been distraught and spiraling in rejection. So, naturally, I got absolutely shit-faced and went on the hunt for anything that would distract me from the added welts to my already beaten heart. I had met Nate and his buddy Zach at a bar in St. Kilda. I connected with Zach over our shared love of Amy Winehouse. When Amy's rendition of Valerie came on over the loudspeakers, we held each other in the street and cried because we just missed her so much. That, and we were completely fucked off our nuts. He told me he had regularly served her while working at a bar in Camden. He even said he had slept with her a few times. When I asked how it was, he replied, "How do you think it was?" Really sad. I have no idea if anything he was spouting was true. My lucid brain would guess likely not. But at the time, I believed him. There was a moment that night that made me realize how hyper-aware addicts can be, especially when it comes down to recognizing another addict. I was drawn to these guys because I could see they were trouble, and I'm sure they were drawn to me for the exact same reason. Zach had looked deep into my eyes and asked, "So what are you withdrawing from?" It had been several days since my last oxy, and I was desperately waiting until Monday to pick up my new script. It's asinine because we were connecting over addiction, but in a year of feeling like I was fading into oblivion, he made me feel seen and understood. This random junkie who looked like Ryan Phillippe crossed with one of those goldfish with their eyes on the side of their heads was the only person who could recognize the war going on behind my eyes. I must have looked skeptical because he continued, "It's cool. I'm a recovering heroin addict." He pulled out a thin foil packet containing what I now know to be a buprenorphine wafer. "Been about 6 months on these?" "Prescription opioids for me," I replied. "Huh, really?" he chuckled. Yeah," I replied defensively. "That doesn't count." "Excuse me? You're not a real junkie?" Me to self. Do I want to be a real junkie? Okay, well, it's got the same chemical makeup as heroin, just without all the rat poison and shit. It's literally known as hillbilly heroin. Nah, man. Doesn't count. Okay. I resigned, rolling my eyes. I wasn't about to spend my night arguing over who was the better junkie. What is my life? I promise you, this was not an unusual conversation. Just as there are surprising judgments and hierarchies in the peace and love yoga community, the same is true among drug addicts. Who knew? Later, we made out because I wanted to feel close to Amy, and then he stole my money to buy drugs. An eventful evening all round. "Hey, do you remember me?" asked Nate, sidling up to me during a break at one of our NA meetings. "Yeah, hey, weird to see you here. I mean, it's good. It's good for both of us." "Well, I won't be back for a few months. I got into the Buttery. It's a halfway house in the country. Gonna be there for at least 3 months, shoveling horse shit and whatnot." "That's awesome. I really hope it helps. I just got out of treatment too. I just can't keep doing this, you know? I'm fucking 40, dead broke, and I live in my mum's basement." "Mate, I hear ya. Anyway, that's not why I came over here." "Oh?" "I know what my mate did that night. Taking your money and shit. Anyway, here you go." He handed me a $50 note. "Seriously?" "Yeah, man. What he did was fucked. I'm sorry. I don't have more. This is all I got." "No, I really appreciate it. Thank you." We had a quick hug and he left, not returning for the second half of the meeting. I'd always thought of money in these situations as collateral damage. If I went out looking for trouble and happened to find it, I couldn't be too upset about the type of trouble I found. But that incident had left a bad taste in my mouth. I had gone home feeling the usual shame and self-loathing of a night out, but with the added sense of deception and manipulation. It felt icky. Nate giving me $50 didn't make up for the money Zach stole back then, but it helped mend some of my distrust in humanity. And for that, I was grateful. Thanks for listening. If you want more, check out the show notes and follow the link to my website or Linktree, where you can get your very own copy of the book in eBook or paperback. Join me on Instagram or listen to the Spotify playlist of all the theme songs from the book. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod so it downloads straight to your app each week. And if you like the show, why not share it with your mates? All right, see you guys. Bye.